All right. Okay, the hand signal from Ryan says that we got ourselves a podcast.
Okay.
It's our second podcast in 2 days, guys. We had Hearthstone Pro Firebat on the other day, and of course we also had Li Joe talking about Evo. And today coming up, we're gonna have SPUNJ, also known as Chad Burchill, CSGO analyst extraordinaire, personality, camera master, ex-player. I guess I could go on and on and on. Which is why, of course, we brought Dennis Gonzalez in to join us again. You've been with us for a few podcasts, right?
A few now, yeah. I think this is like a good second job.
I would say you are our CSGO expert in the office, I think.
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, I think you qualify for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, since two of our people have abandoned us for the video side, yeah, I am now the CSGO expert.
And that's right. Wow, that's shots fired. That's like it's some internal theScore eSports drama shit right there.
Well, guess what, Dennis? We've got an even better CSGO expert on the line, so screw you.
Now, before we do bring Chad on, are you, the major is coming up, and are you excited about it?
Oh, I'm definitely excited. I mean, we'll talk about this a little bit as far as like how many events are going on all the time. But when it comes to major season, I'm always down.
Yeah, well, we'll see if Chad actually has anything to say about like the number of events, because every weekend it seems like there is something that you want to watch. For sure. You know, something that's going to kill your social life.
Yeah.
Without further ado, I guess I should do this intro thing, Ryan.
You are the official man to do it.
I am the official man. I am the host. I'm not acting like it. But this is the theScore eSports podcast. We do this thing every week, sometimes 2 times, sometimes 3 times. Once we did it 4 times.
You're real proud of that, too.
Yeah, I say it all the time. My name is Colin McNeil. I am your host. I'm with Dennis Gonzalez and Ryan Stratton.
What's up?
And as I alluded to before, our guest today is Chad Burchill, a.k.a. SPUNJ, ex-CSGO pro, now a face of CSGO, analyst extraordinaire, and he's going to be working the upcoming Krakow Major. Chad, welcome to the theScore eSports podcast.
G'day. I got to keep it really cliche and make everything as Australian as possible.
Oh, right on. So where's your Foster's?
Yeah, that's another misconception. We actually don't drink Fosters in Australia. That's like we don't put shrimp on the barbie either.
See, I knew that.
I did know that.
It's like the Molson Canadian equivalent, man. That's it. It's like the Bud Light.
What part of Australia are you from, Chad?
From Perth, so the West Coast.
Yo, shout out. I lived in Perth for 6 months.
You and every other basic bitch from Canada. Relax, Colin.
Shut up. No one lived in Perth. All the exchange people went to Melbourne or Sydney. Yeah.
We have the best Australian animal in Perth. We got the quokka. It lives on this little island called Rottnest, and it's like a mini kangaroo.
How do you spell that thing?
It's like Q-U.
It's like 2 K's in it. It's like
Q-U-O-A-K-A.
That name again, guys, was Rottnest Island. A very charming name.
Interesting.
Yeah, I actually went to Curtin University for a while there, Chad.
Yeah, I never went to university.
Okay.
But I know the university you're talking about. We used to have lands there because it had good internet.
Yo,
That's awesome.
that's sick.
There you go.
That's so funny.
There you go.
Well, I suppose we should move on from quokkas and
They're so cute.
get into Counter-Strike. This is your first major that you're working as an analyst, right?
Yeah, so I did a couple of stuff with majors when I was a player. I went to 4 majors as a player, and I did a little bit of like desk work, I suppose. Like I did like a segment here and there at some of them earlier on. But now that I actually get paid, this is my first one as an analyst.
So this is crazy to me because you left the pro scene in 2016, if I'm not incorrect.
Just over a year ago now, yeah.
Okay, so in just over a year, you've transitioned your career and you've pretty much shot to the top of the CSGO host, analyst, caster sort of role, which blows my mind because it's very competitive. There are a lot of really good people who do it, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who would like to be doing it at that level. So I just want to get from you, like, how exactly did you manage to, in 1 year, go from, playing at a major to working at it?
So I think the podcast I did when I first retired with Richard Lewis, where he was kind of asking what I wanted to do, and I said that this would be something I was interested in, that kind of put my name out there. And then I was very lucky. I've always had really good relationships with TOs because I'm 27 going on 28. So when I was a player, I was still one of the elder players, right? So I treated events seriously, and I wasn't. I was considered an adult by the tournament organizers, so I think they in that regard anyway. So then I got contacted by ESL to do the end of Pro League Season 4, and then when that happened, it kind of spread that I was already going to be in Europe, so DreamHack contacted me for some stuff. I had some other offers come in from different events, and it just snowballed out of there. I thought it's a very stressful industry because you never really know, because we freelance, you never really know what's going to come up around the corner, or if you make a mistake, or if you upset the wrong person. Mm-hmm. But I've been very lucky to be, I guess, really busy, I guess.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, you're obviously good at what you do, because you could have been given the chance and then we'd never see you again. Now, we alluded to this a little bit when we were sort of shit talking during the intro of the show, but there's a lot of Counter-Strike. A lot of Counter-Strike that goes on. And, you know, players travel to all these places, but so do casters, obviously. I mean, you alluded to it earlier. Your life is living in hotels now. Is there ever a chance that, you know, you just burn out? Like you just do too much?
So I think the lifestyle can be really destructive because we are away all the time. And if you don't treat it, like if you don't fully commit to it being your life, then you're going to sometimes treat it like a party, right? Because there is a party every weekend, or there's an event and you're doing 16-hour days. If you're not getting enough sleep, not eating properly, not doing any exercise, then I reckon you burn out pretty quickly. But I think I was just into doing a good job for a long time. Like in the beginning, I was just really keen on, you know, making sure that I was towards the top of my game, or at least presenting very poignant facts while doing my analysis. And I think that there's still a lot of room to grow with how we can approach it. That's not something that I think we obviously have analysts that can do the right job. I think we just need to get the tournament organizers in the right place so we can give out better information. But yeah, living from hotels can get tedious. I guess all of my belongings are in 2.5 suitcases. So at the moment I'm only traveling with one. But when it was winter, I had to travel with 2, and then I've got a big backpack, and I've only been home this year for under 6 weeks. The figure keeps changing. I think maybe it was, I don't know, but it's not a lot, right? And yeah, it's different. You have to commit to it fully. You can't be like half in, half out.
Yeah. Well, I actually kind of want to take a little aside. You have one suitcase there. What are the essentials that are basically keeping you sane in this work?
Essentials that are keeping me sane. At the moment, I'm actually not. I'm getting sick, so this toll on me. But in the past, here's a fun story. In the past, I was just watching a lot of shows. So when I was here for a season of Pro League in Cologne, I downloaded a lot of torrents. Right? You shouldn't do that. Don't do that.
Okay. No, don't do that. Kids, don't do that.
It's really bad, and I got a fine of 1,800 euros.
Oh my God.
So I think what keeps me sane is just watching mindless stuff and being able to like have, I don't know, a couple of hours every second night where I'm not thinking about Counter-Strike, because it is really full on. But I'm lucky that I've been doing this for 15 years, and I feel a lot of love for the game. So I'm still happy to be giving it 110% at the moment.
I love the maturity level that's coming from this guy in terms of like this holistic approach. He's talking about being there for a while, one of the older dudes there, and it becomes a lifestyle. I've seen this guy's Twitter, and it's not just about the game. It's everything outside the game. It's cleaning up your chip bags and your bottles at these parties. I mean, clearly this SPUNJ has got there not only because of his great play and his great abilities to be the best of the best in anything casting. It's also because, again, maybe he's like the CSGO dad.
In the green room over the last week, I don't know if I coined it myself, but I started to get the name of Chad Dad. So I'm definitely not the oldest in the green room, but I think maybe I was acting a little bit too, not strict, maybe mature would be the word. Everyone else having a bit of a good time.
That's really funny, actually, because like when you like, again, we're going to talk about like a bit of the Australian I guess stereotypes, but like going into that environment, I kind of thought that you were going to be one of the more rowdy people, but it seems to be like the dynamic is a bit the opposite. Like you seem to be, well, the Chad Dad.
Yeah, so I had my fun when I was younger, right? When I was around my 18s to 21s, when I was like in the CGS all the way back in 2008. Like those times are like a blur because I was 18 in the States, obviously not meant to drink, but we had walking up the street one day, and me and my teammates were all under the age of 21. We all had cartons of Coronas, and the cops pull up and they say, "Hey, look, you can't have that out here and this stuff." And we said, "Oh, we're Australian." They said, "All right, it's fine." So that's what exists. It exists around the world about us being like rowdy and stuff. And you see all the boys, all the Aussie boys who came out here over the weekend, they were doing shoeies and stuff. And it exists. But I think like if I was to do that, I would die pretty quickly, right? Like the opportunities here to party and have a really good time. And because there's so many people in this industry that I like, everybody likes the same things as me, like games and Counter-Strike. And I think you just have to make sure you can pull away. You can have fun, but you need to be able to treat it as a profession because it's one of the quickest growing industries in the world. And, you know, I want to be in this I don't want to go back to being a plumber, to be completely honest with you. So digging holes in 40-degree heat is not fun. Celsius, not. You guys work in Celsius?
We do.
Yeah,
we do.
We got it right.
So,
Commonwealth Brothers. I feel you on the whole maturity thing, getting your partying out. I was kind of the same way, and funny enough, a lot of it got out in Perth. Now, not a bad down for that. Now, in terms of if you're the Chad dad, who is the least mature, most party animal guy or girl in the green room?
I can't that level of information, unfortunately. There has to be some kind of veil.
I bet it's Sato. I bet it's a Canadian.
Yeah, good boy.
Yeah, he's a good boy.
Yeah, he can be.
All right.
Listen, when it came to the whole Hearthstone thing about the suits, blah blah blah, whatever.
Oh,
I think
thing.
God.
Moses was the first guy to jump in and said, "You know who the fuck you're messing around with." Just loose cannon.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, Chad. It's a little moot now because I'm looking at you, but I was gonna ask like, what are you wearing? You know, that was gonna be my cheap transition into this topic.
This is my only clean shirt that I have left, so I need to definitely do some washing when I get to Krakow. But it's just a t-shirt. I like to keep it casual. This is the thing, right? Like a lot of people have different views on what to wear on these broadcasts, and the one thing that everyone has told me is like, hey, like let's just make it a button-up or a button-down shirt, right? Which is fine. I get it. But you know, for me, and I don't care. People can dress however they want. I really don't mind. But I think like when you're dressed up to the nines, you know, on an analyst desk at like a really big event, I think it makes sense. But some events or group stages, when you're doing 16-hour days, you want to be comfortable. I'm sitting there for 16 hours watching Counter-Strike all day. I'm sitting down. I'm not going to run and steam my shirt between every segment. We actually at this event, we had a stylist, right? And it's not that the stylist had a budget to buy us clothes. The stylist had to work with what we brought. And I'm packing my bag right now. All of my colors are pretty much like black or white. So she only had like that to work with. And when that guy tweeted on the 15th hour of a day, it's just like overtime after overtime. Sure, we're watching great Counter-Strike, but we obviously get tired, right? I was just like, fuck this guy. It's like, I don't have anything against him. It's just, hey, I snapped. And it was fun. The camaraderie in the green room skyrocketed at that point.
Makes sense. Now, we were talking a little bit earlier about your career trajectory, going from player to analyst. But I think you've said in the past you actually don't like casting specifically. And I've heard you cast. It might have been at that 2v2 thing recently. Don't quote me on that one though. And I actually like you casting. And I'm just wondering like what part about it you're not into.
So I think like I did a little bit in Pro League, or maybe it was like New York last year. I was still in the Cologne studio, and we were doing the group stage from there, and I was casting with Uber Shouts, and I was basically just doing color, right? And doing the color side of things, I think is fine because you get a really good opportunity to be able to set up the game as it's happening, and you can explain things in more detail. The problem I have is like my pacing isn't there. I'm not like a hybrid like Henry or Jason who have like really good knowledge of the game as well. And they've been casting for a long time that they can build the hype. So if I'm in the middle of a point and something happens, I can't transition as well as them. And I think that at the moment, you know, we have a lot of good casters and we also have a lot of good analysts. But I think, you know, the analyst side of things is where me being an ex-player, especially an in-game leader, can have a lot of input and really, you know, explain to people why certain things are happening or what might be going through their heads. And I think outside of that, hopefully going forward in the future, we get more content that is based outside of the tournaments, but on a regular basis, where you can analyze Counter-Strike in a fun, entertaining, but educational way. And I could do that as a color commentator as well, I suppose, but it's not. I feel like in today's casting landscape, you need to have a duo, right? Like that seems to be you need like a power duo.
Yeah.
When I don't know where I'm going to be in a month's time, it makes it very difficult for me to be able to like commit to things like that. This way, I just have to rely on myself.
Well, you actually touched on a topic I wanted to ask you about is duos, and this is a big topic for every caster, regardless of what stage they're at. Like, arguably, well, we all know that the big duos, Sato and Henry G, Anders and Semler, etc. But even like say Pansy or Moses, they've been in the game for however long, but they still haven't really necessarily committed to a duo or just haven't found one. Is that something that's seriously on your mind? And I guess as a side topic, what are the casters that you have enjoyed casting with? Or who?
I think like Lauren and Jason are like a really good duo, and I think like Lauren gets a lot of crap from the community for absolutely no reason. I think technically as a caster, she's great. And she actually plays the game more than most of us because she actually has a home base, right? I haven't played Counter-Strike now in like 4 months. I just don't have an opportunity. I don't have an internet connection. What was the second part of the question?
It was just a more general one of who are the casters or maybe even analysts that you enjoy working with the most?
So I've been pretty lucky to like have the same crew around me for the majority of my time doing this, right? So it was like me, Yanko, Machine, Henry, and Sadicus in the like when I did Pro League in the beginning there, and I've mainly been with those guys. And then in the more recent months, I've done a lot with Jason as well, because he did the whole EPL season. Well, he did the majority of the EPL season for season 5 this year. So we have like quite a tight knit group with us. I have worked with Anders and Semler, but obviously not as much. But those and Lauren as well, Mitch, the Australian caster for ESL. But basically, everybody I work with is really cool, right? I haven't done. I don't think I've done an event with James and Dan yet. I think the major will be the first one of them. Did one with Lurpus, that was good. Obviously, Thorin was fun. Thorin is always very entertaining. I don't really care if people like him or don't like him. He is the most entertaining analyst we have on the desk, and I think that's something which I look up to, and I want to try and bring more of that. But no, I like everybody. Just everyone's good.
Okay.
I knew you would say that. Like good Australian. I like everybody. Now you mentioned a few times now. You're like, okay, I haven't been home in X weeks, and I don't play Counter-Strike and stuff like that. And you live in hotel rooms, and I'm just wondering, like, what kind of personal life does this create for you? I mean, like, if you have a girlfriend back home, like, do you ever see her? Do you see your family, your friends?
So I went home about 3 weeks ago now, and I had 2 weeks at home, and I don't know if I should be divulging this level of personal information on the internet. This is my life now, right? So things had gotten pretty bad in my relationship, which was almost 3 years long. Because when we first started dating, I was playing and I was just going to every event now and again. And then I got into Renegades, and then we moved away, and I was gone for extended periods of time. And then I started this, and it just turned out that I was going to be away pretty much indefinitely. And then in the last couple of months, it's kind of been very rocky. Due to me dropping the ball on basically just being an idiot. Not being an idiot, but just being a shit boyfriend. And things kind of came to a close, unfortunately, when I got home 3 weeks ago. So now my lifestyle is single. I'm back to that status, which can get lonely. Like I think like this is probably too deep, but being away from my girlfriend and stuff, she was always still there. Like I could always message her, like we could always have a Skype call. And when I got home, I always had someone to like hang out with, and that was something which you could look forward to. But now that I don't have that, it's been a bit of a weird adjustment for me because it's only been, I guess, 3 weeks now. So I'm still like evaluating where my life is at. But in terms of like seeing friends and family, my parents are very supportive, so I obviously miss them and I'd like to see them but hey, this is what I have to do to kind of have a career in this industry. Same with the friends. And I feel that I make a lot of, even though they're my colleagues, I consider the people I work with now like close friends. So that always helps.
And I would say to his point that the thing about family is that they're always going to be there. It doesn't take a whole lot of maintenance. You know that they're going to be supportive. If you're going out and you're living out of 2 suitcases for X amount of months on end, you know that by the time that you do get back to whatever family you have, you're going to be accepted. They're going to celebrate you. But the thing about, burnout and relationships with friends, with girlfriends, with any of that social stuff is that you've got to put in the time with your friends, with your girlfriend. And if not, it starts to dwindle and you start to lose that fire. And they're not always going to accept you as that place if you don't put in the time. So it becomes major. And when you do, you're in a vital time in your life where you're trying to be the best at the game, the best at the cast. You're really trying to define who you are and trying to figure that out. And sometimes there's not a whole lot of room in order to open up and find something like a wife, like a family that can always be your home. That, like he said, he had a touch of it that no matter where he goes in the world, he's always got that person that he can Skype, he can do whatever. He still has that with family, but fuck is it hard to deal with girlfriends and friends, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ryan, the life coach, his rates will be displayed on screen. When you read this, please call 1-800-TheScore eSports.
Taking a dark turn here, haven't we?
Yeah, and I feel like the room just got darker, like you've turned a light off. Or
no, but real talk though, this is just the life of being a caster, of being like super hardcore into your career. You're in the most transitional, most sacrificing stage of your life. Like again, Sadicus was on the podcast, or sorry, not Sadicus. Semler was talking about how I think someone in his life passed away and he was unable to attend the funeral or do anything about it because he was
Anders
on the grind.
came on and talked to us and he said that he went off to do a major a couple days after his first child was born, I believe, and for him it was no question at the time. And then when he talked to us, he's like, I can't believe that I actually did that.
Yeah, I think like there's always, it's always really hard to balance the two. And in this lifestyle, right, I'm not complaining, right? I think I live one of the most privileged lives, getting to travel to all these amazing countries, always involved in something which I love. And I think it's amazing in that sense. But there's obviously sacrifices, right? And the sacrifices maybe aren't the same as someone who has to work like a 16-hour day, as a laborer or something to just make ends meet. We're quite privileged in that regard. But everything has its downfalls, and I think obviously that's sacrificing a lot of family and social time. I think is probably the biggest one.
That's fair.
I mean, with that said, there's 2 coins to be looked at. I mean, you look retrospectively, 2 sides of the same coin, not 2 coins. There could be many coins. Fuck it. But now, when you do look back at things that you could have done better, whatever, the fact is that you are at where you're at right now. You're going to be on the desk for a major in Krakow. It's absolutely exciting. There's going to be beers and champagnes and shoeys and all kinds of people to reach out to. So I mean, yes, in retrospect and in hindsight, there are some things that you could have maybe valued more, or lived in the moment, or done some more maintenance. But the thing is that he's very much on this upward trajectory, and he's got this PGL ahead of him, man. It's super exciting, and a single dude. Look the fuck out.
Do you feel good, Chad? Does the positivity flow through you from this good Canadian boy?
I brought up the matchups for the major, and now I'm getting excited again.
Well, I actually did the exact same thing. While Ryan was talking, I literally pulled up my phone and I'm looking at who's in.
You
and
texted your girlfriend.
I did that. I love you. I did not. Look, Australis. So I did actually want to ask you some like nitty gritty questions about the major as well. Not going to go through every team here, but I'm thinking like in the Legends group, who do you think is most likely to scrub out, not make top 8? And in the Challengers group, who do you think is most likely to do the opposite, to punch above their weight and make it up to top 8?
I think the team that I'm probably most concerned about is obviously virtus.pro. Because they've had such a bad string of events, and they know they've had a very bad string of events, and I think in the past they've almost been, for some desk segments, right, like to just beat on them not performing in certain situations when they should and stuff like that. But I don't think that's fair. If we just wind back to the conversation we were having, they in my mind would be considered the most mature team. They all have families, they're all like married, have kids and all this kind of stuff, so they're at a different phase in life, and I think they're transitioning through that now. And they're very resilient, right? When I speak to them at these events and stuff, I think that they're definitely trying really hard. What I watched from them at ESL1 Cologne, they had strategies, they've done the dry runs, they've worked on everything, just not clicking. And some days it's like that, and they might go to the major and they might bomb out again. And I think if they bomb out, then it could be a new look virtus.pro after the player break, which would be crazy because we've had this lineup for so long. But if they go and they play to the potential, which I know they can, they could be top 4. I know that we were talking in the green room, and Freiburg's like, if these guys show up, they're definitely top 4 at this event. Like, but it wasn't to be, and that's why I'm most concerned, because that team is like, they represent something to me that no other team can. Maybe SK can a little bit, but these guys like define being a family and actually pushing through hard times within a game and not just changing roster. So I'm concerned for them, and I'm probably concerned for. I liked what I saw out of Fnatic. I was going to say Fnatic. Let's go with North, because like they to me have such a huge skill ceiling, but they also have really low lows. Like when they started the tournament in Cologne, they lost to Optic in the opening round, and it's like, how is that happening, right? I look at MSL as an in-game leader, and the way that he approaches the game is very similar to the way that I did, and I think, how is that not working when you have amazing stars like Magic's Boy and Config? And I think it's maybe just, I've theorized this in the past, that I think it's because their players are so new that they know how to play one brand. Like Config and Magic's can be super aggressive, and they're great at that, but they haven't really had time to evolve at this level into being able to do multiple different play styles, and maybe they get countered too much. I don't know what's going on in the inner workings of the team with communication and stuff, but from an outside viewpoint, that could be one of the issues they could fix. With the challenges, G2, I think, obviously we would expect them to make it to legend status, right?
Yeah, I should have put a caveat in there. I forgot. I was going to say other than G2, but I neglected to do that.
I think like it's such a tall task for teams like Penta, Vega, and Flipside, but the format also, they're not going to get the same run as what they would have had at the major qualifier, right? Which is where teams may have neglected to counter-strat them properly, or teams may have not even known what to look for. So those 3, to me, should not make it at all. But Mouse Sports, I can see, potentially making that legend slot. The fact that Oscar and Rops, I think he had a rough time in their last match. He looked like he was, I don't want to say choking. Obviously, he's such a young kid. He's like 17 years of age and playing on like stages, playing in pressure environments like this. It's still very new to him. I think he has a lot of growth. But if he can get good support from his team, and Oscar plays the way he's been playing, I think that Mouse Sports are one who could make that legend status. And for obviously Cloud9, right? They just had a sick tournament. If they can carry that through, then they're legit. Like that's fair. It's not that I've been a critic of Shroud and Scoodle. It's that I think that they could have always done more. And I didn't think their hearts were in it, but they proved me wrong at this last tournament. So I would say Mouse Sports and Cloud9 have a pretty good shot at making legends if they play similar Counter-Strike to what they have been recently.
I like it. And I'm glad you brought up Cloud9, actually, because they're obviously the only NA team in the major. And I think, is this the only major or one of the majors, Dennis, that's only had one NA team?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but there was definitely an upward trajectory for NA right at MLG. I think there were 4 NA teams, and then it's just been downward.
It has been down. Like at the very least, there's been a downward trajectory, and it does make one worry a little bit about NA Counter-Strike, and it's something we talk about on this podcast sometimes when we have guests who have a lot of knowledge base there. What do you think, Chad, about the way that region is going in terms of competitive Counter-Strike?
So I think there are actually Liquid and Cloud9. If Cloud9 can continue this brand of Counter-Strike, which they've revolutionized in very recent how they approach the game, right? I think that they're actually being able to play the current meta. They're playing slow, methodical. They're actually understanding rotations. I think a lot of props might have to go to the coach Valens in that regard, and Liquid with Zeus as well. And both of those teams are playing a brand of Counter-Strike, which I think is meta. Because it's not as theory based as like an SK who didn't get a match with a huge game plan, right? It was just like we will play how we normally play and we'll adapt on the fly because Fallen and understand so well how to adjust in every situation. You look at the teams like with Cloud9 and Liquid, they're kind of on that way, but they have a game plan. If Cloud9 can come out in a very fast, disrespectful style of Counter-Strike, they're going to get off to like a 7-0 lead. And Liquid are one who I think are also, they're playing fundamentally sound at the moment. And then obviously Optic would be just, you know, the third team there because they're kind of identity crisis right now, I suppose. The skills there, we saw that in Cologne, right? They can play Counter-Strike, they shoot people in the head. But it's just like, do they know what team they want to be? Because when they done all that stuff with E-League Season 2, it was based off of really good individual risks, right? You saw players getting 3Ks and pushing into an area which they normally shouldn't or wouldn't because of an instinct and getting a lot of territory. So Stan could make a really good mid-round ball. Having this result at Cologne means that we might see them bounce back. Am I still on?
You are. You're breaking up a little bit there. Yeah. Maybe the German Wi-Fi giving you trouble.
Sometimes the hotel they limit you. But go ahead.
But I just think the Optic, you know, they just need to find out who they are, and then they can be a really good team within that region. You could have 3 teams plus the 2 Brazilian teams. Even Luminosity, they have their ups and downs. Within the North American region, you could have 6 teams who are, you know, could be considered top 25, top 20 in the world, maybe depending on how, you know, the scene's looking. And then I think within the North American region, there's obviously other talented players. But I think too many players get opportunities that they shouldn't, in the sense of there's enough skill in North America to maybe have 6 decent North American owned, like, let's just say American/Canadian or North American/Canadian teams, like, between, right? You probably have enough for 6, but I would love to see, and this is never going to happen, this is me living in a fairy tale world, but I would love to see something happen where we had the North American region of Pro League was no longer called the North American region. It was called the Others, right? Or we could come up with a better name. But
the Others.
You get like Tai Lu over there, right? Or you get Flash Gaming or Vici, or you grab a team part of the world. Like, I don't know if the South African guys could stack up, but, you know, they might be another team. I could guarantee there'd be one there. This fucking internet.
Yeah. we know the city.
We got the majority of it.
Yeah, we got the gist of it. Man, you'd think the internet in Germany would be top notch. You'd imagine.
Maybe I'm parents right now, and they're on to me.
Oh yeah, they got your torrents.
They'll get fined again. Yeah, please.
Yeah. Oh god.
But no, I think you bring up. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Just saying, I'd love to see that because I think it would make the whole region more competitive. Because they always complain about practice, but if you put teams in there who are from regions that aren't considered as good, I think it'll push everybody up. So
that's fair. And then I guess just to round out the predictions, I'm just going to put you on the spot and get you to give me your prediction, your arbitrary prediction for grand finals at the major.
Shit. Okay. I hope based off of recent results, we get SK versus Astralis. And the reason for that is SK obviously on this amazing run. They've almost won the 4 trophies that they've come here to win. And they're playing a really good brand of Counter-Strike, and I think they have a better game plan come the major. And I think like they'll actually show their cards. And then Astralis, because they're kind of shrouded in secrecy at the moment, right? We haven't seen them for some time. And I know they're going to come up with some sick strats because they've been boot camping hardcore. So those 2 for me is like Clash of the Titans at that event.
Mm-hmm. Well, on that topic of Astralis, they actually haven't played an official since, I think, 3 weeks now? A little under 3 weeks. And you mentioned the boot camping, and they're obviously going hard, but is there maybe a bit of a concern of them maybe going into the tournament a little bit cold?
No, I don't. Maybe they might start a little bit cold, but I don't think they will be cold because they will have such a good understanding of how they want to approach every matchup, right? So they know that their opening game is versus Immortals. They will have identified all of the weaknesses of Immortals before they play. They'll already know what maps they're going to do. They're going to have a sick game plan. Whereas when you're a team who's been playing all these events back to back to back, you're fixing it. You're in a boat that's could be struggling. You're in a boat that's sinking and you're trying to patch holes. You don't get a bigger picture. You don't get a chance to sit back and do what they've done. Whereas when they can sit back and watch everybody else and go, hey, that was a cool strat. Let's steal that one. Or hey, that's what he likes to do on his default now. We can look at this tendency. They're in a position where, like Penta was at the major qualifier. I know that sounds ridiculous, but with Penta, it's like nobody really, if you didn't do your due diligence, you wouldn't know what to expect with Penta, right? And I think some teams took them for granted.
Yeah.
With Astralis, if you don't know what they've been boot camping on, you haven't been practicing them a lot, and they have been staying away from the top tier teams in their scrims, they can come out with some really sick stuff. And all you need, and I think it's a very harsh way to call these strats, but all you need is your first gun round to have some amazing gimmicky strategy that no one has ever seen before and catches people off with timings and smokes and the execute is like smick. What will happen is you can use that to catapult yourself to like 9 rounds just based off of being in control of the economy, just based off the first gun round, right? And if they have that on like a very wide, diverse map pool, a team's going to be in trouble. I'm putting a in the fact that they've really gone hard. Like, I could be completely wrong, and they might just be just coasting along thinking we're the last major. Like, I can't see that being a thing. But yeah, I think that they have an advantage in that sense.
Okay.
Well, I guess one of the final sort of predictive things I wanted to ask you actually is your pick for sort of a dark horse, most underestimated team that people may not see coming.
Maybe Gambit. I think like Gambit has a lot of potential on LAN at big events, like especially with players who have been around a long time, like Adren and Dozier being able to. It's so strange. Like you play them online, it's like, are these guys serious? And then they go to LAN and they're just gods. Like they come alive, just like virtus.pro in that sense. So I think not to win the tournament, but definitely like I could see them still making that top 8 again, maybe even top 4. They would be a darker horse once again because we haven't seen a lot from them in recent times. Na'Vi, I don't know why, I kind of have like a crush on them for some reason. It's like that team seems like it should be good. And then because I was doing so much Pro League stuff, I was watching them get better over the course of Pro League. I was like, this is sick. The new coach is awesome. They have a great plan. And then they just like shut out the bed. And I was like, well, there goes that. And then at the Cologne, they played much better, even though they bowed out to Cloud9. I think that if they can fix whatever issues they had in those matches, that they have a chance, to go back to a decent standing in the world for sure.
Actually, kind of wanted to go back to Gambit actually and wrap this around to speaking about the Swiss format. Gambit in particular, they have a storyline. I'm not sure if this is true at this point in time, but they've had the reputation of being map specialists, which I think favors the best of 1 format that's used currently in the Swiss system. Do you have maybe any criticisms of the Swiss system? Like, I personally, like, on the face of it, I love the Swiss format just because like it's essentially a reseeding group stage. But I know that some players actually don't like it at all.
So look, I am going to sound like a here. I don't care. I think the Swiss system is shit. I think we need diversity within our system. So having the Swiss every now and again is fine. Depends on the type of event. I think we need to have the old GSL formats like we used to, all scattered all over the place. But more to your point of what you're saying about players not liking it and stuff, I don't think that players should be the people to choose which format they get to play.
Interesting.
It's obvious as to why that is. Because if I was a player, I would want as many opportunities to fuck up as I could, but still make it. Right? I want the easiest way out. I want, if we have a slow start, it's okay, we can turn it around, right? I would want that every day of the week. And also, if you're a weaker team, like you're saying, you can literally practice 3 maps. You can practice 3 maps because of the way the veto system works. Now the veto system's changed. I have to read into it a little bit more. So maybe you have to play 4 now. But you can have a very limited map pool that would never get you through a best of 3 in a million years unless you had a very similar matchup. And I think that you're bang on. If you're a map specialist and you can come out in that regard, it's different Counter-Strike. I think we need to get to a point where we have diversity in tournaments. So the major should be the most prestigious, but I think Valve's take on the major is it's like almost like a showcase of their game. So they're not a purist like me. I want to have a 16-team best of 3 double limb bracket. I don't give a fuck how long it takes. If you want the best Counter-Strike, the best matchups, the fairest way, a best of 3 is so much different to a best of 1. A best of 1 you normally veto middle ground. A best of 3, if you have you're clearly better in the map pool, you should be rewarded for that. There's no this is a game of 7 maps. This is a game of being able to play a series. You get blown out and your team like BP or SK who are really resilient, and you come back and win the next like 2 maps in a row because you have a stronger mental fortitude. Like, I think that's what Counter-Strike's about, and I definitely think there's a place for Swiss, but you were right, you're bang on. I think like map specialists, they do get away with some upsets, and that's why we all want to see reseeding after each round to like even it out a bit more, right?
Mm-hmm.
I hate the fact that like we have like knockout matches in different tournaments in the past where it's two good teams playing against each other, and then two teams who would lose to those respective teams if they were playing each other, right? So the Swiss could be addressed to make it a little bit better, but I just think like people like Wesser and stuff and tournaments need to listen to people who are external factors. Like as much as we are entertainers, like analysts and commentators and stuff, me, Jason, Henry, Danko, Thorin, everybody, Natu, we've all been involved in the game for a very long time, and we would know as competitors and as players that people want the easiest way out, right? So you want to make it the most competitive format, not the easiest.
That's fair. You make a very good case. Is there any like obviously I'm not a TO, so I don't really know shit about this, but is there any argument to be said for best of ones being more logistically viable in terms of time? Because the majors are 7 days long kind of thing. So if we did best of three, is it possible to cram it in the same amount of time?
Oh, you're bang on. You guys, like at the start, said that there's so much Counter-Strike and every weekend there's an event to watch, and there's only so many days, so many weekends to put on Premier like Counter-Strike. So you definitely need to do the best of ones. I think for some reason the community could be wrong, but for some reason there's the understanding that it should be on the A stream. I don't see why we don't have an A and a B stream for almost every event.
Yes.
Like you could do more matches. But then you know what that means? That means more money for more commentators and more streams and more production and more this and more that.
Yeah.
And it's probably a question of TOs being in the middle, you know, making sure that they get value for money and they present the best product they can that keeps everybody happy. And it is a business. So they're businessmen. I'm just a plumber from Australia talking about
You're living the dream, man. Living the dream.
Yeah.
Okay, Chad, we're going to wrap up here in a little bit. Before we do, though, is there anything that that you wanted to say we didn't get a chance to touch on, or any shout outs you want to give? Any final thoughts?
I could soapbox about how I think ESL does an amazing job, and no matter what they do, this community is going to be, but we will stay away from that.
And maybe his torrents have failed him. Well, he seems frozen there.
And I didn't know what to expect when jumping on here. This was good.
Oh, well, we only got the last that. Sorry, do you mind repeating yourself? We got jumping on here. This is good. Oh, and there you are. Yeah, you're back now. Sorry, last shoutouts after ESL? Well, then, with that said.
Well, I'm
He wrote and said, I think it's dead.
And his expression frozen.
That's fucking perfect. Take a screenshot of that. Take a screenshot.
Oh, he's moving. Damn it.
No.
Okay.
Well,
what a perfect time for it to conk out, though. Like, thank God it didn't do that halfway through, you know?
Well, we really don't want him advertising ESL, really. Like, come on. Let's be honest here. This is the SPUNJ eSports. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, and he's back.
You could talk about ESL if you want.
All right, so I guess, I mean, we were wrapping up. Do I just text this guy now as you guys chat about what happened and take us on out of there?
Maybe we can try the call again and we can do a legit goodbye with Chad.
Fine, then I will.
Technical difficulties do happen on live productions, ladies and gentlemen.
I tell you.
Quotes around live. Yeah.
Live.
Yeah, well, try again.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you again. We just need to refresh it. All right.
Where did it die?
So it died right when we were saying goodbye, right after you said your comments about ESL.
Yeah, you don't want a soapbox, and then you died.
Okay, I forget where I was going.
All right, well, any last shout-outs? Let's just ask it again.
No.
God damn it.
That's amazing. I've never gotten that answer before. I thought you were going to thank your family, your friends, and your fans, and the whole Counter-Strike community. That's usually the shtick.
Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior.
Jesus.
Holy shit. Well,
he's on point.
Okay.
On that one, Chad, we'll have to wrap this up and we'll have to say goodbye. I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. It was a real pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. It was good.
Good luck in Krakow, obviously.
Yeah, please. I hope your first major is a memorable one.
Yeah, hopefully I don't say anything stupid.
No, never have.
Best of luck. Thanks so much for stopping in.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you,
Talk
Chad.
to you soon.
Take
Bye.
care, Chad.
Bye.
And there you have it. Sponge
Well-
heading to the PGL Major Krakow.
Despite the technical difficulties, that was quite a fascinating talk.
That was awesome.
Some of the stuff he said about the formats, really strong opinions on there, and like he pretty much convinced me.
No, for sure,
You know what
for
I mean?
sure.
Like, it took 5 minutes to pretty much convince me.
Yeah. No, it's there's a lot to be said about a lot of things.
And I'm glad that his grand final pick was my grand final pick. That makes me feel so
Get
validated.
out of here.
I would replace FaZe with the Astralis, but I don't know. And this is coming from an Astralis fanboy.
I don't think
when
so.
When Astralis won the major last time, it's like, fuck yeah. It's the boys.
I actually don't think so. I don't think FaZe is going to make it. I think they're going to get close. They're going to get the semis. And
Okay.
Nico's a no-go. You know what I mean? So
Please.
But no,
I think that the whole Swiss breakdown, I get it what he's saying. Like with these eliminations again and again and again, you keep giving teams chances to get back into it. And what I love about, say, American football is the fact that there's 16 games, and every one of those games matter. And just like Sponge was saying, some teams can sandbag, get off to a slow start, whatever, and then go ahead and still turn it around. Same thing with like a double elimination type thing. When everything is on the line and it matters, I feel like I care more as a fan. That's all. What's this Swiss thing?
so are you arguing for best of one or best of three?
No, best of three. Like
Okay.
yeah. This whole Swiss thing, is this just so everybody gets along and everybody's nice? Is that why it's called Swiss? Is that like a
No, it's actually because the brackets are made of chocolate, and no, no, it's
I have no idea.
Swiss cheese because there's so many holes in this system? Like
I-
what?
Hey.
No! I did a Colin.
Hey, you did a Colin. That's very good. I gotta one up you with the Colin though. You know, I felt like Chad had so much knowledge. I just soaked it all up like a sponge.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
You're getting taken off the fucking air.
And on that, we gotta rinse this podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Remember, we do this every week. The Score eSports podcast. Please.
Unfortunately, we do this every week. Yeah.
We do this a lot. Sometimes we do more. Please don't forget, hit us up on social media, guys. Tell us, A, who you want us to speak to, and B, what you want us to ask. You can go in the chat. We usually do it live on Twitch.
Just come in and do Colin's job for him.
Would you?
Yeah.
Would you please? Would you please? And with that, it's time to say goodbye. I am Colin McNeil, and for Ryan Stratton and Dennis Gonzalez, that's GG.
Woo!
That's good.